They expected you to follow the standard human pattern of seeking external solutions to internal wounds. Instead, you did something they didn't have in their playbooks. You turned inward, found the source code of your own consciousness, rewrote the programming that society had installed, and emerged as someone who doesn't need their validation, doesn't fear their rejection, doesn't crave their approval. You became a closed system, self-sustaining, self-manipulating, self-directing. And closed systems are impossible to infiltrate, manipulate, or control. That's not a person anymore in their eyes, that's a phenomenon. And phenomena don't fit in filing cabinets. They tried to find your weakness, your pressure point, the thing they could use to bring you back into line. Money? You proved you'd rather have peace than wealth. Status? You walked away from circles that should have been attractive. Love? You rejected connections that didn't match your frequency. Approval? You demonstrated repeatedly that you'd rather be misunderstood than fake. Power? You showed that you define power differently than they do. That your version of power is internal, unchallengeable, independent of external validation. Every lever they tried to pull, every button they tried to push, every trap they set with golden bait, you looked at it with those terrifyingly calm eyes and said no. Not with anger, not with explanation, just no. And then you walked away. That simplicity, that clarity, that absolute refusal to negotiate with manipulators, it broke their entire approach. They're trained to handle aggression, to deflect anger, to wear down resistance. But someone who simply refuses without emotion, someone who looks at their entire system and says, this doesn't interest me anymore, they have no protocol for that. Now we need to talk about why they're so obsessed with categorizing you specifically. It's not just professional curiosity, it's existential fear. See, systems survive by predicting behavior, by knowing how people will react, by maintaining the illusion that they understand human nature completely. But you're living proof that their understanding is incomplete. Every day you exist in your uncategorizable state. You're a walking threat to their authority. Because if one person can evolve beyond their models, others can too. If one person can become immune to their manipulation, others might learn. You're not just refusing to play their game, you're demonstrating that the game is optional, that the rules they enforce with such confidence are actually just suggestions, that the reality they've constructed has exit doors they've been pretending don't exist. You're the glitch that proves the matrix, the exception that invalidates the rule, the mutation that signals an evolutionary leap. And they can't have that information spreading. They can't have others looking at you and thinking, wait, we can just stop playing. So they study you harder, trying to find the flaw, the weakness, the point of failure that proves you're not really free, that proves their system is still ultimate. But here's the secret they discovered and tried to bury in the deepest classification levels. You didn't become uncategorizable through rebellion. You became uncategorizable through radical self-honesty. You looked at yourself without the filters society installed. You examined your conditioning without defending it. You questioned your beliefs without fear of losing your identity. You faced your shadows without running toward false light. You admitted your flaws without drowning in shame. You acknowledged your power without performing humility. That level of self-awareness, that willingness to see yourself truly, it's rarer than they want to admit. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding honest self-examination because the truth might shatter the comfortable lies they've built. But you walked into your own darkness with a flashlight and a notebook. You cataloged every demon, named every fear, understood every wound, and then you made a choice they never anticipated. You didn't try to fix yourself according to their standards. You didn't try to become acceptable to their system. You just decided to be authentically yourself and let the consequences sort themselves out. That authenticity, that unwillingness to perform a more palatable version of yourself, is what makes you impossible to predict. Because you're not following external scripts anymore. You're writing your own in real time. Let's go deeper into the file, into the sections marked Behavioral Anomalies Requiring Further Study. Subject maintains unusually high standards for relationships, refusing to settle for connections that don't meet specific criteria of authenticity, reciprocity, and depth. Assessment. Potential isolation risk, but what they missed in that assessment is that you're not isolated, you're selective. There's a massive difference between being alone because nobody wants you and being alone because you refuse to compromise your frequency. You understood something most people never grasp. Empty company is lonelier than solitude. You'd rather sit in your own energy untainted than dilute yourself trying to vibe with people who require you to shrink. That's not loneliness. That's standards. And people with standards terrify systems built on settling. Another notation. Subject appears unmoved by traditional status symbols, showing no increased happiness or motivation when exposed to wealth displays, luxury goods, or social climbing opportunities. Assessment. Possible depression or anhedonia. Wrong again.